Here's your Forbes Daily Briefing for Wednesday, April 10th. Today on Forbes, OpenAI made Sam Altman famous. His investments made him a billionaire. In the summer of 2017, Superhuman CEO Rahul Vohra started frantically messaging his investors one by one. His startup had tested out a pending update to Google's web browser, Chrome, and, due to one seemingly innocuous code change, Superhuman's smart email service had broken overnight. The damage seemed inadvertent. No one at Google seemed to realize anyone was building on top of that otherwise dusty code, but for Superhuman, the crisis was existential. The venture capital firms Vohra contacted all shrugged helplessly, claiming no direct line into the right person at the Googleplex. By Friday night, Vohra turned to messaging his angel investors, including Sam Altman, OpenAI's CEO. Altman wrote back in minutes, and he name-dropped Google's CEO. He wrote, quote, "I just so happened to be at a party standing next to Sundar Pichai. Stand by." The next morning, a vice president at Google reached out with an apology and an invite to the tech giant's San Francisco office. In the years since, Vohra says, Superhuman has enjoyed a close partnership with Google, including being asked to test out more recent changes to Chrome. All because of Altman, who had decided to invest through a personal fund he managed after a single 30-minute meeting a year before. Vohra tells Forbes, quote, "Sam stuck his neck out for a founder of a startup that was, for him, a small investment. But for us, it was a crucial moment in our trajectory." Founders backed by Altman echo such observations of the OpenAI CEO, such as in the right place at the right time, seemingly endlessly well-connected, fast-moving and decisive. Altman has become increasingly a household name since the rise of ChatGPT in late 2022 and the explosion of interest around generative AI. Altman has little time for startups these days, he told Forbes recently, but he remains at the top of cap table wish lists for the cachet and such so-called in-case-of-emergency break-glass situations. Reid Hoffman, the LinkedIn co-founder and former longtime OpenAI board director, says, quote, "Sam is rare in that he's a capable investor, but he's also making bold bets. A lot of investors are fearful of failing. They invest in things that will make money, but aren't going to be potential big public failures. Sam is very comfortable with taking the big bet." And indeed, it's those investments, not the $80 billion plus valued OpenAI, in which he has consistently asserted he holds no equity, that land Altman on this year's Forbes list of the world's richest people for the first time. A founder turned partner and president at Y Combinator, who has invested out of a number of funds over his career, Altman maintains a maze of holdings that are not well understood. Forbes sifted through more than a dozen regulatory filings and spoke to more than a dozen people familiar with Altman's investments to reach the most thorough estimate of his net worth so far. $1 billion, enough to make Altman a new billionaire. The lion's share of Altman's wealth comes from startup investments that range from early career stakes in YC companies, like recently public Reddit and fintech unicorn Stripe, to more recent big bets, like nuclear energy company Helion and longevity startup Retro Biosciences. Forbes estimates that his share of the funds through which he made some of such investments, including Hydrazine Capital and Apollo Projects, is worth $145 million. Large checks written to Helion and Retro account for another $555 million. The rest of Altman's wealth comes from estimated stakes in Y Combinator funds, about $90 million of real estate in California and Hawaii, and several smaller personal bets. That's only what Forbes was able to track. It's possible, sources told Forbes, that Altman retains other sources of wealth yet undiscovered. Altman's personal collection of technological artifacts, for example, described to Forbes by Hoffman as including jet engines and Bronze Age swords, could not be appraised. Some are still skeptical that Altman doesn't have any financial upside in OpenAI. Yet OpenAI spokesperson Hannah Wang said Altman's only interest in the company was indirect, through YC's small investment. He doesn't retain financial upside in OpenAI today, she added. Song Ma, associate professor of finance at the Yale School of Management, said it's an unusual situation given OpenAI's capped profit and nonprofit structure, and it would otherwise be, quote, difficult to imagine that a co-founder and CEO of a large for-profit company does not have a financial stake in it. Professor Ma added, quote, "That's kind of how capitalism works." For full coverage, check out Alex Conrad and Phoebe Liu's piece on Forbes.com. This is Kieran Meadows from Forbes. Thanks for tuning in.